short answer. So now I have Program Support Assistant Ahmad, who is going to share with us a bit about reporting of activities. Ahmad, floor on to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Sania, for the nice introduction, and thank you for everyone joining us today. In the coming few slides, I'll be presenting more on reporting and how do we report activities, why is it important to report activities, and future opportunities it opens to activity coordinators and everyone. And also, we'll be discussing the impact of COVID-19 on activities from reporting point of view. So next, please. Sania.
Can you see this?
So,
yes, can you?
Yes. Thank you very much. So with the first question, why do we report activities? And to start with, I'd like to say that reporting your activity is a mutual benefit, and it's a benefit for everyone in IFMSA. It starts with the inclusion of the activity itself in the IFMSA activities database, which is really, really important. And why is that? Because first of all, when we have the activity shared in the activities database, it makes it more visible. And this makes your activity more public and more publicized to people. So it's kind of motivational for members who participated in that activity in the first place. In addition, it could motivate other members from different regions and different NMOs to take the initiative to replicate the activity. Maybe it could inspire them with some idea of the same perspective of the activity itself. And in addition, it will definitely help people who are about to organize the activities in the same perspective, the same area, to they will have a step-by-step approach from your own experience and so on. So it's really, really, really beneficial for everyone. For the second benefit, it's inclusion in the program's annual impact report of the IFMSA. And with that, I'd like to go through a bit of more advantages of this point. So first of all, it helps document the outcome and impact of your own activity. And with having multiple activities from different regions and different NMOs, this will also help us document the impact IFMSA is bringing on local levels. So would you please, Sania, go next? No, the previous slide. Oh, thank you. So with this being said, this brings us to the dilemma of the differences between outcomes and impact. And maybe it's a long-lasting question. Many people may be asking what the difference between impact and outcomes. So to make it short, I put it in the story. So for example, if your community suffers from high prevalence of HCV, this may be due to maybe faulty behaviors. So this is your problem, and this is the problem you want to tackle. In order to tackle that problem, you organize an activity based on raising awareness to people. So when you organize the activity, which includes raising awareness to people, so you will have an outreach of 10,000 people attending to your booth or to your awareness raising platform. This number, the 10,000 participants, is actually the outcome of your campaign. But what is the impact? The impact is that a percentage of this 10,000 people will change the behaviors, which was the previous problem for which we started our activity. So if they change the behaviors and their daily activities to prevent the prevalence and the spread of HCV, then you have an impactful activity. With this being said, I'd like to note some points. First of all, outcomes could be short-term or long-term. They could be positive, they could also be negative. And also they can be intended or unintended. Like, for example, when you intend to raise awareness of public regarding some issue or some problem like HCV, in the meantime, you unintendedly or unintentionally, you are making medical students able to deliver messages appropriately and work on public health. Maybe they learn more about statistics and everything. So with this, I'd like to also note one thing is that impactful, the impact as a definition is the sustainable change the activity brings to the stakeholders who are related to your activity. I'd always remember that there's no such thing as a small or little outcome or impact. every change matters. Every change matters. So when you fill in your report form, make sure to state everything. Would you please go to the next slide, please, Sania? Thank you. So these were the first 2 points. What about the third one? Apply for grants and scholarships. IFMSA brings a couple of opportunities for people who enroll and report their activities, such as, could you please move to the next slide? Yes, which is the memo fund. The memo fund is a fund. It's provided by IFMSA. It's of 300 euros as mean. The objective of this fund is to recognize the outstanding activities undertaken by IFMSA members. And it's named after one of the brilliant members of IFMSA, whose name is Guillermo Martinez, who served IFMSA as Secretary General for the term 2003-2004. But unfortunately, he lost his life in workplace violence. That's why his friends and IFMSA decided to dedicate this fund as a memory in his own memory. To apply for this grant, what should you do? So you should do very, very simple things. The first thing is that you need to have a clear idea on your activity. You need to have it enrolled and reported before the 15th of June this year, next June. And please make sure to stay tuned for further information, further notice on how to apply in detail for the memo fund over the next weeks. Would you please go to the next slide, please? So with that, we have discussed the importance of reporting and why we should report. Now we should move on to the process of reporting, how you can report your activity. There's a unified report form for all IFMSA programs, which are 13 IFMSA programs. You can fill in this report form. It's also shared. Make sure to check your email. If you have any activity enrolled, your program coordinator have definitely emailed you by now. You can check the report form. You can go through its sections. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your relevant program coordinator. Why is it in the form of this Google form? Because it helps us collect some information. This information will help us further do some statistical analysis and provide some data. This data will be combined in the annual impact report, which will be a baseline for our research work based on our activities. And also, it would provide a lot of data and a lot of information to be used in our external presentation work by our impressive liaison officers. Moving on to the next slide, please. So a very important question, when we should report our activities. So ideally, you should report your activity once you're done with your evaluation, once you know where you stand, what you have achieved, what you have not achieved, what went right and what went wrong. When you have these questions answered, you should immediately fill in the report form. However, we understand that this process might take some time. That's why we need to fulfill every report before the 15th of June, 2020. And if you manage to meet this deadline, your activity will be included in the annual impact report of this term, which, as mentioned before, will be providing a lot of information and a lot of valuable input for our annual impact report. And with this, I'd like to also note something, that there are some continuous activities from previous terms that have not ended yet. Please make sure to also report these activities to document every impact and every outcome produced over the years. Would you move on to the next slide, please? With this being said, and the world right now is facing a pandemic with COVID-19. So how this impacted your activity? Answering this question is really, really important for us as IFMSA, as a major student organization around the world. So having these questions answered, having this question answered on how COVID-19 impacted your activity. Was it a good thing or was it a bad thing? How did you challenge, how did the challenges look like with organizing your activity? So please do not make COVID-19 stop you from reporting your activity, even if your activity is not 100% fulfilled. Because as mentioned earlier, even little or small impact is still an impact, and it's worth documenting. We are very, very, very careful to collect further information on the impact of COVID-19 on your situations and your communities. So in the section on the outcomes of your activity in the report form, please make sure that you note every heavy detail on how COVID-19 was an obstacle or maybe was a privilege, who knows, for your activity or for implementing your activity, because this will help us collect more data on that and maybe use it for external work or research work in the future. Thank you very much for this part, and see you in a few minutes. Thank you very much, Sania, and with the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, for detailed overview of reporting and few of the challenges that we have been facing with COVID-19. If you still have any more questions on how, if we can guide you with reporting and the current situation that your activities are facing because of COVID-19, please feel to write in the question box. We would be doing 2 rounds of question answers today, so we can discuss these when we come to that part of the webinar. Oopsie. Okay, so moving on. Now we go for program collaborations, and joining me for this discussion is Lalu, who is Kuradi, Mahmoud, who is Skardi, Omnia, who is liaison officer for public health issues, Saad, who is liaison officer for student organizations. Also joining us is Sylvia, who will talk about work that we do with Exchanges Committee, and she is program coordinator on teaching medical skills. And we also have Ahmad, who will talk about our efforts related to pre-GA and capacity building work that from the technical aspects of programs that we are doing. So I would like to open question for standing committees here. And so for Lalu and Mahmoud, if you can explain to all our participants of how programs and standing committees have been going about collaborating in the beginning, from the beginning of this term, and how is this internal collaboration coming about? Floor on to you, Lalu.
Thank you so much for the question. I hope you can hear me well. So yes, basically when it comes to SCORA, we have 4 problem coordinators that are like strictly linked to our work. And since the beginning of the term, they just got to participate in our monthly online meetings, and they have been like part of the international team dynamic since the beginning. So I think one of the strongest points on this collaboration is that we get to understand very well like our members' needs, because we might gather like different perspectives on that. So we can just address that better because we have this like activity management component and how to plan ahead and how to just develop your own initiatives. And then we have all the organizational parts. So it was really nice to have like both perspectives when it comes to anything falling under the standing committee work. We've been working on campaigns. So the campaigns that we had in SCORA have been developed both by PCs and ITs. So this was also a collaboration that we had since the beginning of the term. And for example, for the International Day for the Eradication of Violence Against Women and Girls, like we had joint work between PCs and then 2 standing committees as well. So that was also quite a successful, let's say, landmark that we had. And it was really useful as well that whenever we wanted to focus on some sort of initiative that required like a topicality or that had a lot of a component on a topic that we work on SCORA, we would also like try to link that into the PC and have the PC as a focal point for that kind of work. So it was really, really useful for that as well. I just feel it enriched a lot the work that we were doing. And apart from that, we had initiatives coming from the PCs to the IT, and then initiatives from the IT like reaching out to the PCs. So it was a very like bi-directional process that I'm very happy to be witnessing and very happy to have in the standing committee. So I think that's the general overview on how we've been doing it. So in case you have more questions about how this goes, I'm just here for the whole webinar.
Thank you so much, Lalu, and floor on to you, Mahmoud.
Thank you, Sania. Hello, everyone. I would like, for SCORP, it's kind of like similar to other standing committees. However, there is something different in the sense that if you have been following, or like if you have been in IFMSA long enough, you would realize that programs have undergone some changes in the past 2 years. And that's affected the structure of programs in terms of the collaboration with SCORP a lot, because we had 2 or 3 programs dropping out. So now the total programs that we have, or like that are related mainly to SCORP, are only 3 programs. So there was this gap, let's say year or 2 years period in which the integration of programs in the standing committee halted or stopped for a bit. And due to that, we ended up having, let's say, a bit far away of a relationship, in the sense that, yes, there were collaborations with program coordinators. However, these collaborations were not evident and faded away while the term moved on. What we tried to establish this year is to learn from the experiences of other standing committees, to try to integrate programs more into discussions within the IT, into the sessions team within the general assemblies, into small working groups, especially, in which program coordinators have contributed a lot to all of our campaigns so far. Not only to the campaigns, but as well to the small work, to the other initiatives, such as the intersectional IFMSA, for example, as well as the International Days commemorations through blog posts. Program coordinators have contributed either directly working on the blog posts or indirectly through giving input. In addition, other aspects that we try to include also is to have a space for programs in the newsletter, in which we promote program enrollment through one permanent post in the SCORP newsletter, which is something important for the promotion and for the awareness about programs for our members. I think throughout the upcoming period, and one aspect that we are still to invest in, is using the SCORP activities database to more encourage enrollment. And I think this is something that we will be doing in the upcoming month or two with the program coordinators, and investing in this platform that we already have to have the activities conducted by our members enrolled under programs, and thus having a bigger impact and a bigger visibility over across IFMSA. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mahmoud and Lalu. So yeah, absolutely. Programs has been like it. I just said when we started that it has been a comparatively new structure. This is the 4th term that this is going on, and it's really amazing to see how far the programs and collaboration with programs and standing committee has come along. And we could say that this term, learning from previous years, we have been able to establish a standard format of how this sort of collaboration can continue and can be developed more, and it's really amazing. To add from few technical aspects, we started from really beginning of the term, even before we actually begin our term. Immediately after our elections, we started working on this collaboration, and thus we could establish a common grounds. And once we had like a common ground of understanding and plans, we started even with interviews, like interviews of program coordinators were conducted with, from my angle, from technical aspects of programs, and respective standing committee directors did join me at point for thematic parts of the programs, because that is how we are dividing the work. Everything thematic is in collaboration with standing committee directors, and everything technical is in terms of programs and programs team. So thank you so much, Lalu and Mahmoud, and they would still be with us and sharing experiences in further as we go forward. For now, we have Ahmad, who would tell us how we went about doing a capacity building initiative in March meeting 20.
Yes, and welcome again. Thank you very much, Mahmoud and Lalo and Sani, of course. Talking about the pre-GA, it was a marvelous experience. It was really outstanding with the SMART workshop we have produced to build the capacities of members on activity management First of all, the workshop was combined with the mini-5-day workshop of IFMSA on facilitation, which was quite a good and a different experience because we managed to merge both workshops in a magnificent way. But the major highlights of that workshop was that the theory of the concept itself, it was introduced for, I don't know, I think it was like maybe the second or the third times to be introduced in IFMSA to the members themselves. And it was really nice, and members' interactions with it, it was really, really, really helpful and really promising for a good future with theory of change in IFMSA and towards our march for impact measurement. Also, we had a really nice activity, which was RCA or Rex Crossley Awards simulation, which was an amazing experience for everyone, the facilitators, the trainers, and the participants as well. It was a really, really good experience, and we all enjoyed it. And it's of our recommendations that we have it as a graduation activity for the training itself in the future, or the workshop. And in this workshop also we had something different, which is the program coordinators were part of the facilitators team, which is different from the trainers. So it was a whole list of participants, facilitators, and trainers. So everyone's learning, everyone is putting some impact, and everyone's putting their touch and sharing their experience. It was a really, really nice environment for everyone to share. And I really hope it happens again. We were hoping for it to happen before the August meeting, but unfortunately, since it's not happening, we will try to put it somewhere, maybe before the end of the term, or recommend it for sometime next term. It was a really nice idea, and I hope it happens all the time, every year, at least once. For any questions regarding the workshop or the reporting or anything, as Sania said, please make sure to ask us questions over the question answers or chat box. Thank you very much, Sania, and moving on.
Okay, so now we have Matilda, who is program coordinator on teaching medical skills, who works with exchanges committees. And one thing that has always come up is how can exchanges be related to IFMSC programs? They are, because exchanges turns out does a lot of activities, and it's very important that these activities, we as IFMSC calculate the impact of this. And Matilda has been taking this to new frontiers. Matilda, floor on to you.
Thank you, Sania. And thank you, Ahmed, for presenting us the SMART workshop. It was interesting for me as well, because in comparison with the other pieces, I kept my permanent and always love for SCOMI and facilitated the IMET. But putting SCOMI aside for a bit, as I mentioned in the previous webinar, I don't only collaborate with SCOMI, but also with SCORI and SCOPI, which makes my program quite wide and fascinating. So the first one that I will talk about is SCORI, because as I mentioned, I have the focus area of research basics for medical practitioners. So what is interesting is that there are a couple of NMOs, as you can see in this slide and in the next slide, Sonia, that organize this type of research-related activities. In some NMOs, these activities are under the SCORI umbrella, while in others they are under the SCOMI umbrella, or they are conjoined. And it's really nice because, as you can see, we have activities from 3 regions, and some of them are more theoretical, some of them are also include a practical part. You can go more through their descriptions in these slides, or anytime you want maybe to develop something research related, you can contact me and I will put you in contact with in touch with the respective activity coordinators. And the other exchange committee is SCOPI. Next slide. Because this year I've been collaborating with SCOPI in a joint small working groups called called Academic Competencies in IFMSA Professional Exchanges, in which basically we have SCOMI people and SCOPI people trying to work together to develop a competency model for FMSA professional exchanges, so as to guide medical students during their educational experience within the exchange abroad. Basically, we want to create this competency framework, which will enable all the involved parties in an exchange with which are SCOPI teams, incoming or outgoing students, contact persons, and tutors, to know what are the expectations from an FMSA exchange through setting standards of learning that can be adapted to any department. So basically, this framework will be further, or ideally will be included in the student's handbook, So as students will have their learning objectives just right there. And currently we are analyzing what lacks in terms of competencies. And the funny thing is that our core document that we base our future framework is the CanMed's competencies framework that we also use a lot in SCOMI. So I'm just like everywhere regarding this. A very important point of information, especially for SCORI/SCOPI people and all of the officers there, like Leo, Loris, Neo, Noris, and so on. The chain of communication, if you would like to enroll an activity that you organize, either it is a pre-departure training or upon arrival training or any other educational activity that you organize during the exchange month, ideally you should reach out to your NEO or NORI for further guidance, or just not to maybe overlap with some other similar enrollments that he or she wants to do. Then that NEO or NORI may reach out to the SCOPI or SCORI IDA with a small point of information here. For SCORI, there is no longer an IDA, so the contact person would be the SCORI D. However, this is chain of communication SCOPI SCORI wise. Anyway, in the meantime, you will enroll your activity and I will be in touch with you. But another interesting fact here, it is not mandatory for you to enroll it under my program, though probably it will be the most suitable one through the clinical or medical skills, but it also depends a lot on the focus on your activity. It can be like a more score activity, a more scope activity, depending on your NMO. So that would be it in terms of programs and exchanges. And if you have any other questions, just type text. I'm here anyway.
Thank you so much, Matilda, for this brief regarding exchanges and programs. And I would really request all IFMSA members, if you're working on pre-departure training, upon arrival training, any educational activities, 90% of the times these are associated with certain thematic areas, and 99% of times these activities can be enrolled with programs. So do explore into this new arena and join us to calculate more impact of what work we as IFMC do at local and national levels, and let's take it one step further. Now joining us are Saad, who is liaison officer on student organizations, and Omnia, who is liaison officer for public health issues, and they will share with us their experiences of programs collaboration with the external world. So floor on to you, Omnia, and then on to Saad. And there would be one additional question for Saad. Is Saad, how was your transition from working as program coordinator and then working as liaison officer, and how did you take this experience and how are you integrating it to your work as liaison officer so more people can be inspired on this journey? So Omnia and then Saad.
Yeah. I hope you can hear me. So hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this webinar with you. And I would love to share with you what we have done so far with the amazing activities that you submit and the beautiful work that you do. So first of all, as liaison officers, we are the external focal point for IFMSA. We work with the external partners and we try to promote and increase both the stances of our members as well as the activities and the work and the efforts that they do in their countries. And I would love to really reflect on how IFMSA is really a special organization. We are one of the biggest youth-led organizations in the world. We've been here now for next year is going to be our 50th anniversary, and we represent 1.3 million medical students. But this is not just what makes us very special. There are many organizations around the world that have so much more outreach. However, they don't have the on-ground work that we do. So our members, they learn from and they build their capacity on an external level and in our general assemblies and workshops and so on. But they get to take back the skills that they learned and the experiences that they gained and bring it back to their own countries. So they do a lot of national and local work within their communities. And this is what we try as liaison officers to show our externals and to show the global health organizations and the UN and the WHO that is the core of what we do. So this is why programs and activities are are really the essence of the efforts and of the advocacy that we do. And we do that by using the data that we collect and that our amazing program coordinators provide, along with the VPA and all the different focal points with programs and activities. They give us the data and we use that in our external conferences, as well as it helps us really get the opportunity to work with externals and to establish solid partnerships with. So first of all, I want to take you through what we do in external conferences with the programs and the initiatives that our members show us and the members submit. So next slide. Okay, perfect. So first of all, as I said, because of the amazing efforts that are done on a country level, we used the information that's provided through either the IFMC activities database, or even working with our IT. We know from our regional assistants that there are certain countries that do certain initiatives. For example, in my field, in climate change and health, I know that there are many NMOs that are active and they are also very welcoming and they get to share with us their activities. And the best way that we can do that is through its centralization in the programs, in the IFMC program, for example, for environment health. So when I was going to COP, leading the IFMC delegation in Madrid, we had the opportunity to really understand what are the kind of activities that our members do for environment, health, and climate change. And I really benefited so much from the activities database, but also what really helped me was Roxanne, who was our PC. And I had a meeting with her just to know what are the activities that we have so far in this program. And she created this map. This map had examples of different activities in different regions. So you will see, maybe the photo is not very clear, but I remember very frankly that there was activities that took place in Latin America, and medical students also in Asia Pacific had another initiative that focused more on recycling. And in Latin America, they focused more on deforestation. In Egypt, they had a public health leadership training on climate change and health. And in Europe, they had a conference that discussed climate change and health as well. That was in the Netherlands. And I had the opportunity to present this map in a presentation in a high-level side event that was done by WHO to demonstrate that we as medical students, among all the health professionals, and there was the Minister of Health of Spain and other high-level panelists, I had the opportunity to really show that IFMC advocates for climate and health, but we don't just say that through our policies and our global initiatives, but we do that through the activities that is done by our members. And can I go back to the previous slide? Thank you. So also we use the activities, we try to demonstrate them through also our statements. We get a lot of opportunity to deliver statements on behalf of IFMC, on behalf of medical students worldwide. And we use these statements to demonstrate the activities that our IFMC members do. And at the same time, also we get a lot of opportunities to submit abstracts to external meetings related to our field of work. And we also have the opportunity to show that our federation works on this topic in a very country level and tangible way. So having a tangible impact, which is also really facilitated by the help of our PCs. And then also having an understanding how is a program and how are the activities integrated within a program. It really helps us create a conversation with new externals, as well as collaborate with existing externals, because many of them sometimes focus on particular regions, and this helps us to really communicate what our regions and IFMC focus on and how these externals can support their work. And at the same time, the next slide, which is the last slide. It really helped us build new partnerships, which happened during my term. I had the opportunity to work with a new partner, which is called the United for Global Mental Health. They do a lot of on-ground advocacy work for mental health in terms of prioritization of mental health services. And I was able to establish this collaboration by explaining to them what IFMC does for mental health on a global level through our policies and our mental health essential workshops and so on, but also on a country level through what our members do. And I had the opportunity to do that through the activities database that is found on the IFMC website, which is amazing. You can really learn and be inspired by all the activities that are in this database. So this is like the Bible for me. I always go back to whenever I want to know what IFMSA is doing in a particular issue, whether it's mental health, NCDs, or climate change. So this was also very useful with our new collaboration with UNICEF, who really focused a lot on NCDs and mental health. And I learned from the database what are the members doing in these particular topics, as well as with the youth health organization. But I'm also very happy to listen to any questions that you have, and I will leave the floor to Saad to take it from there.
Thank you,
Thank
Omnia.
you
So
so-
moving to the next slide.
Yes.
And as Sania always say, we in IFMSA act locally and think globally. And this is the exact role of programs when it comes to its relation with external affairs and external partners. So I will talk with a little in this slide about how programs help us work or improve our work with externals and stakeholders. And the first thing you should know is that programs, enrolled and reported activities are the main communication message between members, us liaison officers, and stakeholders and partners. In the sense of, if I see, for example, 12 or 20 NMOs in Europe working on vaccination education, for example, I would go and approach Gavi and present that, and then I can create local links between that stakeholder and members. So it is a way that helps me as a liaison officer to identify the need of the NMOs, what are NMOs working on, and then go reach out to partners, go reach out to externals, and create that link, create that support, offer opportunities for members. Like, for example, we did in the World Antibiotic Awareness Week. So we reached out to WHO Regional Office of EMRO, and we were able to create a regional campaign and offer great support to NMOs, because I got data that most of the NMOs are working on antimicrobial resistance. So this support, this communication is very important. And if not to the enrolled and reported activities, I wouldn't know what is the need, what is the focus of NMOs. And that's why it's important to know and identify all the reported and enrolled activities. And this will allow me to create more and more opportunities for members on the local level, and even for IFMSA when I present my work. So the second thing, other than supporting activity coordinators, supporting NMOs in your work by reaching out to externals, the second thing is sharing. And sharing is very, very, very important, as Omnia highlighted. So first thing when it comes to sharing is that if I have, for example, 120 activities done on antimicrobial resistance by 85 NMOs or 85 countries, I can present that to WHO secretariats, for example, on AMR, and be like, we as IFMSA are doing this and this work on antimicrobial resistance or on vaccination or on COVID. And this shows that we as medical students, as IFMSA, we are an international leading stakeholder on that topic. We are the most active young people when it comes to antimicrobial resistance, for example, as it's my focus area, but you can also say mental health or gender-based violence, etc. So the goal here is to showcase our work and to prove that we are an international stakeholder when it comes to that. And this is important. Why? If IFMSA, if WHO, for example, or any other partner has a high-level meeting or has a consultation or has an opportunity or a fund related to that topic, they will think of IFMSA directly. They will know that those young people, those medical students are doing some great work. So it's important to consult them, to work with them, to offer them opportunities, etc. So it's important for us to get this data, to know what our NMOs are doing, so that we can prove ourselves as a stakeholder, as a powerful stakeholder who are doing work, and share that with our externals to be there, recognized, and have our value there. So that's for sharing. And also that allows us to get funds, support, also get articles, opportunities to highlight our work, etc. So that opens endless opportunities with externals. And the final thing when it comes to sharing is sharing best practices and success stories. And believe me, people, this is very, very important. Never underestimate what's going on the local level. A story of an activity that has been going on in the local level can be shared on a high level meeting by WHO or on a website, for example, of an external stakeholder. So this best practice and this local level is what inspires those people who are out there wearing suits and talking about changing the world. The work you are doing in the local level is what really changes the world. And this is very important. And I really insist on that, in the sense of you people, when you enroll and report your activities, make sure to write as much details as you can, so that you can inspire us and so that we can inspire people who are out there and our externals. So this is when it comes to our work and collaboration with externals. And I would like to answer the question that was asked with or about my experience as a program coordinator. So basically, it was 2 years ago, and it allowed me to have a new vision when it comes to local level, when it comes to what's going on by IFMC members, in the sense of I was in touch with more than 85 activity coordinators from 75 or 80 countries. And it allowed me to see that our work is not only a number, it's not only an activity in this database or something, but it's more valuable than that. What people are doing on the local level, it's a whole organizing committee taking place. It's a whole interaction with the population. It's a whole work and efforts being done. It's a whole impact and lives that are getting changed. And as a liaison officer, realizing that, attending external meetings, speaking with partners, I learned how to value this, how to speak about this and make it more inspiring, because me, I got inspired at the time, and it allowed me to transmit the message and to showcase to externals that what's going on, what we are doing is really changing lives. And that's the power of being a program coordinator or working and getting in touch with people on the local level. It allows you to see the power and the life-changing power and importance of activities and on activity management. So that helped me a lot as a liaison officer, first to inspire myself and to inspire externals. Second thing, also to know different types of activities, to see also the need of members. So when I get in touch with externals, I can quickly identify what is the need. For example, okay, we can get some financial support, we can showcase our work in a blog or a website or a video or something like that. So it gives you the agility to explore more and more opportunities for IFMC members. And it was a really life-changing experience as a program coordinator. If you get the chance to maybe try or apply, don't hesitate. And most importantly, make sure to work on your activities on the local level. Never underestimate your work and the impact you are doing, and do enroll and report and share for us. And thank you, leading the floor to Sania.
Thank you so much, Omnia and Saad, of explaining in absolute detail this new frontier of work that we have embarked on this term. So as I said, that IFMSA programs is a very technical structure, and it's structured around two things, that is enrollment and reporting. And when this structure was introduced with IFMSA 5 years ago, and the structure took about 2 years just to bring it into place. And so people have been working since a long time to envision this structure and to make it successful in consequent terms. And we have just began to have the impact of it. So looking forward for this structure to grow up in many more upcoming years, where more data is, IFMSA is able to collect more data, and we can only do that when you report, when you enroll and report all your activities, and then liaison officers can work more and more to translate these activities into a global advocacy mechanism and showcase it with help of data and on base of evidence, which is so important in the times of misinformation and disinformation that we are currently living in. So contribute your best, and we will do our best to take the structure to next level. Apart from that, IFMSA program has also been working with regional teams at regional levels. As you know, that for activities, fair, and Rex Crossley Awards that takes place during General Assembly, one of the criteria is that you need to enroll your activities with programs. And similar criteria is used by different regional teams during their regional meetings. And this is one of the ways how we are collaborating with regional teams during the times of regional meetings. So will highly suggest that you enroll your activities and you report them as well so that you can avail more and more opportunities through IFMC structure at standing committee level, at external and liaison officer level, and as well as regional teams and regional directors level. With this, we go on for the next set of our webinar, and we take questions. And the first question we have is, I think one of the most important question we have here is, do activities have to be associated with standing committees? And I'll just give a brief overview, and then if Lalu and Mahmood or anyone from program coordinators want to add, they can share as well. So programs, you have to understand, is a horizontal IFMSC structure. What do we mean by horizontal? It's that it's a technical structure which everyone can work with, right from NMOs to IFMSA officials, everyone can work with the structure. And that is the potency of the structure. So all your activities can technically fit into programs, and they do not have to be associated with any particular standing committee. And that is where the programs come in into a clear picture. A lot of times you can find out that your activities are related to multiple standing committee, but it's typically related to one focus area, you could say. For example, I can give you an example of one of the programs that we have is gender-based violence. The program coordinator works with both committees, CORA and SCORP, equally, and the topic is very broad sense as such, but you must be working with an activity related to gender-based violence, and you might be confused that is it related to SCORA or is it related to SCORP? Don't worry, it might be related to both, and you have programs here, so you can just enroll your activity with a program on gender-based violence, and Shaima, who is our program coordinator on gender-based violence, will help you work even further with SCORA and SCORP accordingly. So it does not have to be very specifically associated with standing committees, but how IFMC structure has been over the last 70 years is standing committees have been an absolute pillar of outreach to members, and that's why we collaborate more with standing committees so that we can enter new arenas of thematic work. As said, programs are a technical structure and standing committees are thematic areas, and mix of both creates an impact on larger scale. Lalu, Mahmood, do you want to add something more to this question?
Yes, if I can take the floor. Thank you. I just wanted to say that there are many cross-cutting areas. Like the first example that came to my mind was actually gender-based violence, because the program coordinator is working with both standing committees, and the activity is actually could be SCORA focus area, which it is, but it's also SCORP work. So it's just the nice platform to have someone just your focal point for this specific topic. And also something that Sania mentioned that I'd like to highlight, it's that sometimes you might struggle finding where your activity fits best. So this happened to me personally, that I wasn't sure where to enroll. So you can always contact the team and they will help you out, figure out where it fits best. And it's just a way to get their contact and then just move on from there. So just don't feel scared of not knowing where to enroll, because they will help you out with that. Thank you.
And adding to Lalu,
yes,
so yes, standing committees might be the umbrella of our, let's say, diversity of the work in IFMSA. However, an important note that each aspect of our work, each aspect of the standing committee is interlinked together. Every aspect is interlinked together. And that's yes, we have a standing committee, for example, on human rights and peace, but working on human rights and peace can be done through medical education, can be done through public health, can be done through exchanges, and of course through SIHR, because SIHR is human rights at the end. So this, I want to go to a point whereas you might do, for example, an activity on gender-based violence, for example, but from a medical education perspective. And in that sense, it's not even yes, it might be related to SCORP and SCORA, but then it's also related to SCOMI. Or you can do it from also a public health perspective. In that sense, you are including SCOF. So programs are as Sania said, are an intersectional or cross-cutting concept that interlinks standing committees together, that brings up the focus areas and tries to, let's say, have that kind of holistic perspective to the activities that we do in IFMSA, in the sense that these are, yes, these activities might be interlinked to different standing committees. However, they address the same topic, they work towards the same target, or the same end target, the same vision, and thus contributing to the same side of the impact, I would say.
Thank you so much, Lalu and Mahmoud. And to add to one more example could be your example, you're a Leo and you're organizing upon arrival trainings for people who are incomings in your local committee, and it is actually related to SRHR issues. And so you will enroll it with program RSRHR, but it's actually related to Scopy or SCORY. So, you know, it's as Mahmoud said, it's intersectional, it's horizontal structure. So don't let the boundaries of standing committee stop you for enrolling, or let it confuse you that which program it belongs to. If you have any doubt, feel free to contact me at vpa@ifmsa.org or ahmad@programsupport.org, and we can help you guide which program does your activity fit in better to. You can also contact 13 program coordinators, and you can find the contact information on website. So then moving on to the next question, we will take two more questions now, and then we'll again have one more round of question answers. So shoot all your question answers and we will cover them. For first timers, do they have to contact NMO presidents, or they can share their activity ideas with IFMSC? It's very important that you contact your NMO president for a very technical reason. Is the candidature form that we have. It's one of the most important steps that you require to enroll your activities with programs, and this is associated with we are living in a bit more legal world these days, where we talk about data and data protection. We also talk about liabilities and ethical fundraising, etc. So your NMO president and your NMO, if you have BPA in your NMO, or if you have project support division in your NMO, or even national officers in your NMO, are the best people to initially guide you. But if you're confused, maybe you can just contact program coordinator, and they can help you even get into contact with your NMO or specific people in NMO. So don't worry, just feel free to contact us at any point, and we will help you at every way in the process. So the next question is, does activity have to be reported once it has taken place, or can it be done when it's still an idea or work in progress? So technically, technically, activity has to be reported after it's done. But sometimes it can happen that activity has been paused, or activity has been 90% completed, 80% completed. In all these sort of scenarios, we suggest that you report your activity, and you report it before 15th of June of 2020 for this term, and 15th of June for next year, and so on and so forth. So we suggest whenever your activity is going on and it has completed, kindly report your activities before 15th of June 2020. When it is still an idea, because we suggest that you can enroll your activity when it is still an idea, but do not report it, because once it has started and you have completed about 50 to 60%, like more than 50% of an activity, it's a good time to report your start the process of reporting your activity. You can enroll when it is still an idea, but not report it. I hope this helps with the question. Then we have okay, so can the activities be reported to program coordinators or particular NMO? We have a combined activity report form, which is now same report form for all the 13 programs. So it's like a single form that you have to fill, and then it will be handled by programs team, so you don't have to worry about that particular detail. So yes, you report the activities with IFMSA programs and IFMSA, and not your NMO. But do get in contact with your people in your NMO and leadership in the NMO, and they can help you out more. Or if you are confused in any point of time, just let us know, and we will help you connect with them and help you through the entire process. So with this, we go on to the next session, and we will come back again to question answers in a short while, which is our second round of question answers we will be doing at the end. So yeah, we have beautiful people and few of our amazing activity coordinators who have enrolled and reported activity for this term. We have IFMSA Honduras joining us. We have Medicine Sudan, activity coordinator from Medicine Sudan, and from Malta, India, and Qatar. Guys, could you introduce yourself? Maybe Jorge, you can go first from Honduras.
Hello, I'm Jorge Zaguirre. I'm from IFMSA Honduras. I am the program activity coordinator, for Mentor Panda, and also I'm the national officer of medical education for my NMO. And I'm very glad to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Jorge. Joining us is also Fatima from Sudan. Hi, Fatima.
Thank you, Sania. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima Al-Basri. I'm neglected tropical diseases project coordinator from Medicine Sudan. I'm a local officer also at Khartoum University. I'm very glad to be with you here today.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Also joining us is Gloria from Malta. Floor on to you.
Hello, I'm Gloria. I'm the current NOMI, and I'm also president-elect of my NMO. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for joining us. We also have Ishika from India, MSCI India. Hi, Ishika.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sanya. I'm Ishika from MSCI India, and currently I've been elected as the National Officer on Human Rights and Peace for the following term. Also, I'm really happy to be here and represent our activity.
Awesome. And we also have Aya from Qatar.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aya Nassai. I'm the National Public Health Officer in Chemistry, Qatar, and very excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And we move to our panel discussions, and these 5 amazing activity coordinators would be sharing their experiences in following questions, and also anytime Lalu, Mahmoud, Saad, Omnia, and all the program coordinators, if you want to join, just let us know, and floor will be on for you as well. So we go over to our first question, which is what according to you is like a description of good activity in your experiences, how you went about a good problem statement or a good objective, deciding on your objectives of your activity. We can go for first Gloria, then Ishika, then Aya, then Jorge, and then Fatima. Gloria, floor on to you.
Hi again. So in my opinion, and when I'm planning an activity with my coordinators, I like to take a bottom-up approach. So in my opinion, we have to start with a student-centered approach. So I work with SCOMI, and so I always aim to be relevant. And when you work for the students and with the students, then you always are relevant. I also have worked with many collaborations, so collaborating with other standing committees in my events, collaborating with also associations on campus, and also collaborations with other local entities. I have also tried to introduce new concepts within my activities, and that I think that also makes it a good activity by, for example, introducing the interprofessional concept in an interprofessional workshops with another faculty, for example, the Faculty of Health Sciences. You have also to work on getting good facilitators for activities. So our facilitators are our professionals, and helping me are also TMET, AMET, and TNP trainers. And we have also worked on making our event sustainable. So we are trying to adopt a paper-free approach. And for example, feedback is collected via the QR codes. And this also makes it easier for us to collect our feedback. And due to COVID, we had to resort now to our online means, and we have carried out our online ECG workshop, for example, and this was also a positive aspect. So a good activity needs to be innovative, it needs to be topical, and it needs to also be student-centered. Should I go on and explain my event, for example?
Yeah, maybe in like 2 sentences for quick understanding for next question.
Yes. So this year I was involved in the enrollment of 3 activities. So we organized SCOME Weekend, which was a weekend full of clinical and practical aspects for our students. We also carried out the Breaking the Silence course, which is a medical multi-sign language course. And we also carried out the Practice Makes Perfect project, which is a year-long project involving practical and clinical skills for our students.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and floor on to Ishika for the project. Udan.
Thank you, Sanya. So, like Gloria mentioned, it's very important that we have a very well-structured activity in mind. We follow the SMART model for making our objectives. So, I would first like to mention what our activity was. So, Udan, which means to fly, was made to focus on 3 aspects of women's rights, and it was to be spread across 3 terms. We focus on literacy, abuse, and financial independence. So the previous term we started with literacy. The most important aspect of before we start an activity is to identify why we need to do this activity, which is basically our problem statement. And it's very important that we know the significance of having that activity in our country, in our locality, in our community, and identify the exact the target population and the beneficiary, which will actually help us understand better what their needs are and deliver better. So since women's rights is an issue which is uh, prevalent and very important to take up in a lot of countries across the globe, so we wanted to create a real-time impact in the day-to-day lives of the women. So what we had in mind was to make sure that our problem statement, our target audience, is absolutely well structured, and to make sure that we have a proper outline of how we would go about it, especially since we wanted it to last across 3 terms. So we wanted to fix a proper timeline and have details figured out so that at any a point, if we have any, we land up in any sort of hitch or any block, we are able to figure a way around it. Also, like Gloria mentioned, having a feedback and an assessment loop is very, very essential to understand which aspect of our activity is not very well received, so that we can modify it and ensure that it's reaching the actual target population and helping them out. So also, I believe a good activity also needs to have some sort of a follow-up session to ensure that what the impact we have created is actually retained with the population we have targeted, and also you know uh, so that we are also able to monitor and evaluate our impact better, and accordingly then the feedback loop comes in again, and we can continue with the future prospects that we want to take up.
Thank you so much, Ishika. Joining us is Aya. Floor on to you.
Thank you. Just to add to what Gloria and Ashika said, basically, we also follow the SMART model. We have to have a good reason for initiating the activity. So for us, I'm going to talk about one specific activity, which is the Qatar's inaugural medical student conference on psychiatry and mental health. Our reason behind it was, or our problem statement was basically that the healthcare provider system is highly known for being a susceptible group for mental health issues. They have higher rates of suicidal ideation or suicide, depression, anxiety, etc. It can be up to 2.5 times higher than the normal population. So that's where the idea stemmed from. Then the second thing would be the uniqueness of the project. So for example, there hasn't been any regional any similar activities in the region in the same structure that we were aiming to do. So that was an extra point for having this activity. From there, we do a needs assessment to see if our target, like what's lacking in our target group, and how can we design the activity in the best way possible to impact them in the way that they need to be impacted, not necessarily how we think is missing. From there, we made our aims, which were 5 main pillars: educate students on mental health and promote it, destigmatize, encourage involvement of students in making their own impact, and then advocating for having a student innovation be presented. From there, we created the SMART objectives, which were specific objectives that can later be evaluated. And then finally, the evaluation process would be, for example, I think we'll talk about it later, but mainly it would be like a way to measure how successful your outcomes, your expected outcomes were, and what can you do differently in the future if you were to replicate the activity. So a good activity, like we said, needs to have a good reason, needs to have a clear methodology, needs to be replicable, and yeah, pretty much that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aya. Floor on to Jorge from Honduras.
Okay, so for us, a good activity is basically based on the needs of the population we're trying to impact on. And for example, our activity Mentor Panda aims to help our second year newcoming students who are transitioning from general classes to medicine oriented classes. And we saw that during this specific semester, our students were having a general lack of motivation. Sorry, their mental health was very decreased, and usually academic performance is very lacking during this semester. So how did we tackle this? We paired them up with a 6th or 5th year student who is already in the clinical rotations, and the older student is basically in charge of showing the new student how to involve himself in medicine school and how to adapt better. Also, we try to focus a lot on the part of mental health, because mental health is a really important part for us medicine students. Because as I said before, during this semester, mental health is very, very reduced in our students. So we try to help them by providing them some safe space to talk on. And basically, is our ultimate goal is to form a long-lasting bond between mentees and mentors, so the younger student can have a friend in the older students, and they can help each other out throughout their whole career. And also, we think a good activity must be well planned, like setting an adequate timeline for the activities you'll perform, on when you will assess or monitor the activity itself, or when do you want to receive feedback from the participants. And also, we do have a very strict timeline for when do we want the evaluation and feedback from our participants. And basically, that's it for now.
Thank you so much, Jorge. We also have Fatima joining us. Fatima, floor on to you.
Thank you, Sania. From my point of view, one of the most important things that we need to keep in our mind before even starting to plan to our activities is choosing the topic itself. Choosing the topic itself is very important thing. We have to choose a topic which touches our community needs. Other things which I think that they are necessary in order to do a good activity were already covered by other participants. So I'm going to talk about the COVID-19 campaign, which is a local activity organized by Khartoum University students. As all of you know, that the emerging threat of COVID-19 pandemic requires fast interventions from us to raise awareness regarding the disease, especially from us as public health leaders and medical students, especially that this is almost the only thing that we can do to combat this. Our health system in my country, unfortunately, is not that much strong. and it will be deteriorating in such emergent situation. Also, due to poor hygiene that is found among most of the daily living workers among the population, we had to organize this campaign. Our campaign focused on increasing the awareness of the Sudanese community regarding prevention of COVID-19, the causes for sure, transmission of the disease, treatment, which is mainly symptomatic treatment, and to correct the misconceptions regarding the disease among the general community. And we had covered successfully more than 27,000 people by the end of our activity.
Thank you so much, Fatima. And I would also call on Saad, Liaison Officer for Student Organizations. Saad, would you like to share what constitutes as a description of a good activity for you?
Yes, thank you, Sanya, for sharing, and thank you to the all amazing activity coordinators for sharing their inspiring work. So briefly, just to add on that, there is nothing called small or non-impactful activity. And that's a very message to know, which is a good activity can be small, can be with little impact, can be with a big impact. And the goal here is to have impact itself. So for me, a good activity is, as colleagues said, that focuses on the need or the problem. Once you identify that, you have your smart objectives and indicators that you can achieve. And it's very important to know what you're aiming for, not to aim for something big and then not achieve it. So even if you achieve small or little impact, it stays a good activity. And impact here is not only the number or the quantity, but also the quality. And as I said before, if you're able to change the life of 5 people, that's considered a very good activity. So identify your need, fix your smart objectives, and with that, you can work on that on a timely and quality manner. So good activity is, for me, an activity that achieves the goal in a timely and efficient manner and impactful way.
Thank you so much, Saad, and you summarized it perfectly well. So I have nothing more to add what constitutes a good activity, but I would just plug in that we have a manual called as From Idea to Impact manual, which can help you figure out what is project management or activity management. And if you want to know a bit more about how to write problem statements, how to write smart indicators, or how to develop smart objectives and how to go about goals, everything, don't worry, just have a look at the manual called as From Idea to Impact. And if you want more guidance, feel free to call any of the program coordinator and get in touch with them, and they're always there to help you. With this, we go on to the next question, which is for all the amazing activity coordinators here. Please share your experiences of your experience as an activity coordinator and enrolling your activity with IFMSA programs, and how did you find that entire experience? And maybe we could do a quick round of like 2-3 sentences from every activity coordinator. We can start with Ishika, we can go to Jorge, and then we can go to Fatima. Yeah, and then for
Thank you, Sanya. So, UDAN is enrolled under the program on gender-based violence since we wanted to focus on women empowerment and domestic violence as well in the coming term. So it was amazing to be able to share our activity with IFMSA and hence with other NMOs. Especially the kind of appreciation UDAN has received, it really warms our hearts. And so enrolling activities in the programs has helped us in expanding our knowledge and horizons with respect to activity management, the practicality, different types of evaluation methodologies, and analysis methods. And it also helps one to improve with the project design so that we can suit it better to the needs of the audience as well as the women. And overall, with the feedback and the assessment, it really helps us. So I think overall the experience has been really enriching, and it's very nice and beneficial to work with different program coordinators. And I really look forward to enrolling more activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishka. Jorge, floor on to you.
Thank you. Well, my experience was very great, I must say. we decided to first reach out to Matilda, the program coordinator of teaching medical skills, before actually doing the activity, and she was very, very helpful. She gave us her insight on the activity. She helped us a lot in the early stages of the activity, and she even suggested us that we should try to enroll the activity on medical education systems too. And once I filled the forms, asked for the candidature forms, and submit my enrollment application, it was almost instantaneous how we got accepted. They both program coordinators, Matilda and Utku, have been such amazing people, and they have been of a lot of help in solving doubts and certain problems we had. Also, some benefits of enrolling our activity is that it gain some recognition for our activity and our NMO in a national level, and also in a regional level, and also it helped us in talking with possible collaborators for our NMO, and they were very interested in working with us with this specific activity. And also, we are proud to say that this is one of our very school-me-oriented activities from IFMSA Honduras to be enrolled in the program.
Thank you so much, Jorge. Fatima, Gloria, and Aya, floor on to you. So Fatima first.
Okay, thank you, Sania. First of all, I really would like to thank all program coordinators because they are very responding, send us tips, manuals, and even they give us some recommendations about how to do our activities in much more efficient way. So first of all, thank you guys. We really appreciate your tremendous efforts. Regarding my experience, I used to work as activity coordinator. So coordinating meetings, managing work between the team, and contacting partners were mainly my job description. Overall, working within activities led to improve my skills, leadership skills, team building, team dynamic. Also, now I know more about activity management related skills, how to write proposals, report, the process of enrollment activities, reporting the already enrolled activities. Also, I have learned how to advocate for the public health issues, which I believe in, among general community, my colleagues, the medical students, and stakeholders, which was very helpful when it comes to recruit partners. My experiences about the topic itself in form of knowledge is enhanced. And most importantly, this is a tip for everyone who's watching us right now. I encourage you to start working in activities because will lead to core change in your personalities. Your personality will be developed totally. You will become more confident. Your inner circle will become wider by developing strong relations with partners, teammates, and even making friendships with some members as well.
Thank you so much, Fatima. Aya, Gloria, floor on to you.
Hello. So within my NMO, we organize around 200 activities a year. However, it was only the first time last year when we started to enroll activities. And the reason was that people were not so much engaged within IFMSA, and because people didn't understand why they should be enrolling. So this year, it was a learning curve for all MMSA Malta, where we started to participate more in IFMSA and get more involved. So I'm very happy about that. And I can explain my experience and the benefits and that we witnessed in three main pillars. So primarily there was the internal aspect of the internal development of our study design and of our design of our activity. The problem statement that we were discussing within my activity was that students, both preclinical years and both clinical years, they don't get enough hands-on experience. They don't get enough practice. And I believe that this is a problem that all medical schools worldwide share and face. Practical experience is never enough. And I said, why should I enroll this activity if it is a world problem, if everybody should be discussing? But to contradict that, I got to know that the more I discussed, that the more I developed my ideas, that the more I learned from other NMOs, the better my events became. Apart from that, we also got the external benefits. For example, I discussed with international IFMSA officials, with international NMO presidents. I also presented my activity at the activities fair, and it was always getting more back to my NMO. And the third, and I think it is a very important aspect, was that when we present the IFMSA logo in a certificate, or when we present the IFMSA logo in a poster, the external stakeholders, for example, in getting a sponsor, they regard our activity with a much finer lens, and we also got sponsors just because we are IFMSA recognized. And my fourth point was, this is a personal note, I got to know about the concepts of, for example, what is an objective, what is a vision, what are the event, what is a statement, how do you do impact assessment. These are aspects that you do not learn from your medical school, and that at the end of the day, we will need to understand for our professional lives. So it was also a personal learning curve for myself. And I also would like to say a huge thank you to Silva Matilda, she was very patient, she was very helpful. And I think that I am proud to have provided around 712 places to medical students and more, all thanks to her help. So thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Floor on to Aya, and then I would also call Lalu to share a few words regarding this. Aya, and then Lalu.
So coming from a young animal, I feel like I got to realize the importance of activities enrollment and the IFMSA program in general in a very short period of time. My first exposure was through my RA Mamdouh, who did a wonderful job. He explained to us back in November about the World Antibiotic Awareness Week and the WH grant. So that was our first kind of, or my first like insight into the IFMSA programs. Following that, a few weeks later, we were enrolling our activities for EMR 16, and we found it as a way to widen our impact and outreach with our EMR colleagues, which was a wonderful experience that presented at the activities fair and the presentation fair. So overall, I feel like having done activities for a few years, we've always were following the same outline, but it was I've never come across it in a very well-defined manner and a structured way that we can follow, and it makes it easier for you to understand why you're creating the activity, how are you going to evaluate your impact, who are you targeting, etc. So this was very clean, structured way to basically use the system that's already in place to make your activities much better. The second thing is I would also like to thank all the program coordinators that I had the pleasure of working with throughout the enrollment process, namely Ahmad from Program Coordinator of Communicable Diseases and Ritikia from Mental Health. They were very patient and they took all my questions. So that was very kind, and it helps you develop relationships and understand the back, like the, I guess the back of the scenes work that happens in IFMSA. I agree with everything else that was said.
Thank you so much, Aya. Floor on to you, Lalu.
Thank you so much. So for me, how I got to understand programs fully, it was back 3 to 4-ish years ago. I was just elected as Nora, and I was planning to have an activity for the Day for Zero Discrimination that is kind of very related to HIV and AIDS. And it was the first time that we were doing that. So I had literally like no background on what my animal could do or what we used to do, because it didn't happen. And I was sure that I wanted to do something on capacity building, but I was not very sure on how, or how was the best way, or how to connect it to raising awareness as well. So I was lucky enough to have a webinar organized by the Regional Assistance for Europe back then on what programs were. And I just had this idea on, okay, so maybe I can reach out to this program coordinator. So I sent an email to someone that was in Africa, that was the program coordinator for HIV and AIDS and other STIs. Modupe back then, like she answered super fast. And I was basically reaching out for resources. And she just answered my email coming up with millions of ideas on what I could do, how to structure it. She even told me that we could have an online meeting and discuss how the outline of the training that I could do in my local committee could be and could look like. And she just sent me like every single thing I needed in a very detailed way. And for me, that was like a turning point into understanding what a program coordinator was. And I would say that it turned me into a program advocate in my NMO. So I was just telling every national officer, like, you should contact program coordinators. Like, they are going to help you out. Like, they are so nice. So for me, that was how I got to actually understand the whole structure and how you can actually get a hand by someone that actually is super experienced into working on those topics. And then when it comes to having like, let's say like IFMSA under your activities, I think most of the animals struggle a lot when it comes to comprehensive sexuality education and peer education. And whenever you go and talk to local authorities, for example, like I was talking to someone in the city hall in Barcelona, and I said that our program is actually not something that we just created, but that is like affiliated under IFMSA. You can literally see how people feel different when you say that. And this was also like one of the points that I was just like, wow, thank God I did enroll this. So that's how I actually got to understand all of that. And I'm happy to still be working with programs in different ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lalu, for that heartwarming explanation. And now we go on through combining 3 questions, and we will do one more round of discussion from all the panelists. So the first question for all the panelists will combine 3 questions. So first is, how did you go about planning your activity? The next one is, how did you evaluate your activity? And if you can share a few tips and tricks for all our viewers right now. So we would first go to Gloria, then we would go to Aya, and then we'll go to Jorge. So Gloria, floor on to you for these 3 questions.
Hello. So for the question of how did we plan our activity? So primarily we started with a discussion of the event of my PMP, the Practice Makes Perfect coordinators. And I like to call it as a round table discussion, where each coordinator has his own individual ideas, his autonomous opinions, but we are still around the round table. There is no hierarchy, because I believe in the modern style of leadership, where everybody can present and materialize his own ideas. Then we decided upon a title, upon a theme, and about a time and the venue for our event. And then we gave out the roles, where I chose the team leader. So there was the one person who was not in Italian we say the capo comandante, who is not the capo comandante, so the main person who has all the say, but he is there as my main focus, as my main contact point on whom to ask and on whom to get my latest updates. Then we started to contact our relevant stakeholders, for example, the speakers, and the number of speakers was according to the event that we were organizing. And we booked the venue, we got our materials. So for example, if we were doing a suturing event, we had to book the pictographers, or if it is an academical event, we had to do ourselves the academical sheets. And we contacted the PRO for the media, because the media represents also our ethos of our association, and so that is very, very important. Then we planned our sessions, which are normally for 15 to 20 people, and normal workshops are planned over a 2-hour stretch. So they are 2-hour workshops. And we like to plan preclinical workshops, so students for the preclinical years, and different workshops for the clinical years, due to the different technical levels. Now onto the question of how do we evaluate our activity. I take this topic of impact assessment and evaluation very seriously, because I think that is a very big loss, that most of the impact assessment is not impactful at all. So I like to plan and discuss that very thoroughly with my team. And we focus both on qualitative and quantitative feedback. For the quantitative feedback, we carry out a pre and post feedback system through a Google form, where students, upon entering into the venue, they fill out a sheet, and they would have similar or slightly tweaked questions for when they leave the venue. And the questions include the quality of the setup, for example, the content, the time allocations, the resources, and also the overall facilitation. Then we have the qualitative aspect, where my team is present, and I always repeat to my team to be approachable, so that they go talk to the attendees, they discuss with the attendees, and we take these points down. Then we carry out an event post-mortem, so we discuss these points after the event. Obviously, such events that we organize in our workshops, for example, the suturing and the phlebotomy workshops and the life-saving workshops, they have small impact, but that's why and it's not that small impact, it is short-term impact, but that's why we organize many of these workshops along the year, because practice makes perfect. Now, some interesting points from the feedback that I've collected and from my personal experience. Students appreciate when the workshops are tailored to their needs. And that is the strategic planning of the officer or of the coordinator. So, for example, you do not set up a history-taking workshop in the middle of the year, but you set up a history-taking workshop in the beginning of the scholastic year, because students will be lost in this practical aspect in the beginning months. Secondly, not all speakers are as effective. So we know that not all people have the most refined approachable looks or the most refined approachable techniques on how to deliver a session. And so we have to get these hints from our attendees so that we get more impact out of our events. Thirdly, a workshop should not be overpegged. So we should be concise, offering as much hands-on practice time as possible, and also the one-to-one experience, because students attend to refine their skills after all. And also we have to keep in mind our audience. So I shouldn't get the same speaker and provide the same material for a final year student as we do with a first year student. It's different. And my final message would be to always be relevant, be topical. For example, right now it's all COVID. And so if we're going to plan an event very, very soon, I hope that it will be a vaccination giving workshop. To be also progressive and to always be positive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and thank you so much for highlighting the point about relevant target population and beneficiaries. And you can find more information related to this on our Idea to Impact manual as well. But that's like one of the most important points of activity. And thank you, Gloria. Until we go for Aya for these 3 questions. Aya, floor is yours.
So I'm going again to be talking about the mental health conference that we had earlier this year. So for methodology, we first had to sit with, we were invited by the World Psychiatric Association to initiate this conference in the region, to be the first country to do it. So we first had a rough agenda of what we had in mind, and then we started to discuss what we had in mind with our stakeholders. We chose stakeholders whose values align with ours and who can help us with logistics and expenses in a way that would benefit both parties. Then we moved on to recruitment. So we would we opened calls for small working groups and volunteers on site for the day. The small working groups were about 4 small working groups, each led by a coordinator, and the coordinator was chosen based on their experience and effective communication skills. The coordinators would report directly to the organizing committee, who was handling all the work outside of the small details that would need to be done. We divided it into content, logistics and finances, student involvement, and I can't remember the 4th one. Then after that, we put them together. We had a training for all the members that we recruited to make sure they're, and it was a mandatory training, so to make sure they're serious about this, they're committed, and to explain exactly what the roles were. We had them choose their own roles so that they would work on something they like. Then for the volunteers, we also had a separate training. We showed them around the area. We showed them around how the flow of work will be on the day. So we did sort of a test run to make sure there are no mistakes, to make sure we avoid obvious mishaps that can happen. and this was a very good way to expect things that can go wrong. Then we opened a call for student involvement. This could be in the form of poetry, artwork. Even if students want to be speakers at the conference, we opened the work. We had a selection criteria, a motivation statement, and CV attached to choose people based on their background and interest. Finally, we finalized the budget, the location, the speakers. We finalized the content, and we had like an outline for each session and what's going to be discussed during that session. Finalized it on both ends, the workshop facilitator or the speaker and us, the organizing committee. Finally, we had the event. After the event, during the event, we had evaluations in the form of monitoring attendance to see if the application to showing up ratio, basically how many people signed up versus how many people actually attended for future purposes. Then we did a pre-survey that was linked to the signing up, and a post survey. It was adapted from a paper that was done on the involving a similar system. Then we had post-event feedback to see if anyone has anything that we can improve in the future, and we discussed it with our partners and organizing committee. Then we did results analysis using peer t-tests based on the people that filled both pre and post survey, and we did some abstract submissions to relevant conferences in the region. So that's pretty much like an overview of the activity and the evaluation methods. As for tips and tricks, these are just tips and tricks for a successful activity from our experience. So first of all, choosing the partners that you're working with is very, very important. Try to find someone who, first of all, we'd like to think that everyone has the goodness in their heart to help a good cause, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. So you'd want to find someone whose values and objectives align with what you hope the outcome would be. So they're more likely to want to help you and fund you and etc. We also try to target institutions who have the space or the logistics that can help us host the conference without adding extra expenses. And we established from the beginning clear regulations on what we can and can't do, and this saved us from investing time in things that would have otherwise been rejected later on. Second of all, the delegates, we tried to make it as easy as possible for people to register. We made online payment available. You can also pay offline on-site if needed, and we made sure that they don't get lost in the building. We had ushers everywhere, so it's a smooth experience. For the volunteers, I think it was very helpful to have the training sessions, because it made everyone aware of the role and how important it is, and that if they are not there, they risk having the entire team fall apart. So this instilled a sense of responsibility, which was very important. We also, like I said, did the test run, which was very helpful. I think to see how the event would play out helps you see where the holes are and try to fill them before the day of the event or the activity itself. Finally, for quality control, we try to do clear timing and deadlines for every activity, for every task, and the tasks were very specific and were assigned to specific people at specific times. So that helped make it easily executable. The speaker material and the speaker sessions were outlined clearly, and they had to be approved by us ahead of time to make sure no one says anything that wasn't appropriate or didn't match the objectives that we provided. And finally, we tried to maximize the participation number per session so that we optimize the engagement, and we give basically priority to people who had more interest in these sessions. One tip that I think is very important is open, effective communication. So if anyone is on the team is not doing the task properly or feels overwhelmed or etc., I think the best way to go about it is to talk to them. Sometimes they don't understand the task, sometimes they don't think they can do it, etc. Maybe you can help them, offer them resources or assist them in completing their task in a better way, instead of shutting them down immediately. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aya, and thank you so much on focusing on stakeholders and partners, because that is one of the most important aspect of activities, and also highlighting the need of pre-training the volunteers. I think that is one of the most often overlooked aspect, and that can contribute a lot to the success of the activity. Next for Jorge, and then we can have Ishika. Jorge, and then Ishika for 3 questions.
Okay, so Mentor Panda was born in a time when activities in SchoolMe FMS Honduras were mostly targeted towards older students. So we were thinking, how can we help a student population that is often neglected in our activities? How can we approach younger students and help them to be better in medical school at early stages? So we thought of this mentorship program, uniting them, pairing them up with a older student, and basically make them each other help each other in their different activities. Like the younger student could go to the hospital with his mentor, or the mentor could help the younger student to study for his classes, as most of us take the same classes. Uh, so um, so we saw the need to firstly try this activity before actually making it into a national level activity. So with last year, it was tested in two local committees that currently participate, and we gathered some feedback and some suggestions from the participants. So then we had some meetings during the beginning of this year to review both feedbacks and experiences from both local committees, and see how we could make the activity better. So uh, we we focus on some aspects, as to we had to teach more medical skills. We have to focus uh, on the involvement of both parts of the mentors and the mentees. So then we started writing our plans, our objectives, our timeline, our every single detail of our activity. And we mapped out our stakeholders. We thought who will be interested in this activity, who will be able to help us. So we first reached out to the authorities of the university to let them know that this activity will be happening, and also to some some people in the hospital, to let them know that we were going to be making this activity, and we were going to take students that don't regularly go to the hospital to teach them how their life will be from now on. And we made a call for participants 2 weeks before the planned starting date. So the inscription Google form was basically just a a recollection of the data of what things do you like, when are your available schedules, when are your what things you would like to learn, and so on. And for the mentors, we ask them, how would you plan to help your younger student? How would you plan to teach them, or to teach him or her? So based on those answers, we try to pair them up to most compatible ones. And we invited them to a introduction meeting, so they can get to know each other. We had some icebreakers, we had some capacity building sessions on time management and team building, and then we have them report monthly on the activities they perform together, if they are going to the hospital, if they are having study sessions together, if the mentor is being really helpful, if the younger student is actually reaching out to his mentor, to his or her mentor. And also we try to have monthly meetings to discuss more problems that might have occurred, and also facilitate more capacity building sessions with the help of our capacity building division. And as for evaluation, during like 1 week after the inscriptions were closed, we have them fill out a Google form which stated what are you expecting for this activity? What do you want to learn from this activity? What is your knowledge on a scale from 1 to 5 of, for example, of the classes you're taking, of where in the hospital the emergency is located, for example. And obviously from the younger students, we weren't expecting that much knowledge from them, because that is the main objective of the activity, to show them, to help them get used to the hospital and to the general medicine school setting. So we gave these, we showed these answers to the mentors to help them guide their work better and to help them plan their future activities with their mentees. So each month we were monitoring the activity. As I said before, we were asking them to fill out a monitoring and feedback form, so we could know, as the coordinator, the people who are in charge of the activity, how the couples were working, how their chemistry was going, if they were actually achieving the roles of the goals, sorry, of the activity, if they were fulfilling the objectives, if the activity was really working. And each month we had meetings among ourselves, among the people who were managing the activity, to see how we could solve some problems, how we could, if we needed some external help or anything like that. And as for the final evaluation, we haven't done this yet, but it is planned to be on the next week, because the activity is planned to close during next week, because it's a semester-long activity. And we will basically repeat some questions from the pre-evaluation, and also ask them for their feedback based on their experience in the activity. Some outcomes. This activity is a very long activity, and it depends a lot on going to university and to the hospital. And due to the pandemic, we couldn't fulfill many of the objectives we originally planned, but we saw how the mentors and the younger students were actually communicating with each other, and they were checking constantly if they were doing well, how their mental health was doing, if they needed any help with their online classes or anything like that. And as I mentioned before, we used this activity in one of our negotiations with possible collaborators for the NMO, and they were very, very interested in working with this particular activity, because they thought it helped a lot our student population. Some tricks and tips. So firstly, I would recommend having a test run of your activity if you are not sure how it's gonna work, like we did. We tested twice, and we then combined both experiences. Also, this activity is classified as a national level activity, but actually it is managed locally by the local officers of the respective local committees. So that's a really good tip for making it easier to solve problems, to have someone in charge in a local level for participants to reach out to if they have any problem or anything they might need. And also we are trying to document all our experiences and all our knowledge and all our objectives and planning and all of that in a manual, so we can share it with other people, other local committees, so they can replicate this activity and use this document as a guide for the authorities to understand the activity better and gain their full support, as they are important stakeholders in our activity. Also, trying out the names of your activity, because this activity had a different name at the beginning, and it was very controversial because it included a term that many students thought it was derogative, and we didn't know about it. So we apologized to the student population, and we changed the name to Mentor Panda, which is a name it has today. And also, finally, a very good trick is reaching out to your plant or the program coordinator of the program you are planning to enroll your activity in, because it really helps in the initial phases of the activity planning, and the program coordinator can really help you out to plan better your activity and the evaluation of your activity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jorge. With this, we would go with, I'll just ask Fatima and Ishika to share in a bit more of a brief manner, tips and tricks, and how did you go about planning your activity? Ishika, floor on to you, and then Fatima, just tips and tricks, and how did you briefly go about planning your activity?
Thank you. So, while planning the activity, the first thing to do is brainstorm on the topic that you want to take up. So, what we did for Udan was, since we wanted to focus on women's rights and make a real time change, so we started with that, and we thought of various ideas that we could use to achieve our ambition, our vision. So next, we went about finding certain aspects of literacy, of education that we would want to give to the women. And then we model them according to the SMART objectives to make sure that we have a proper assessment later on. Then we also made innumerable drafts to ensure that we have a good project design and a very nice timeline which we can strictly follow. We went with SWOT analysis and to find out the kind of the number of target audience we need to have, because uh, the volunteers would have to engage in face-to-face teaching, in one-to-one interaction with the women. So it was a rather difficult task. So we kept after analyzing all of that, we kept our target population to 150 women. Um, we went ahead with resource mapping because we know that resources aren't always available, that they're limited. So we went ahead with asking people to donate books for these women so that they could learn better. And also we went uh, then we next what we did was we tried to come up with a methodology for our volunteers, because it's not easy to teach a non-literate woman, the basics of alphabets, how to write her name, how to sign. So it was essential that our methodology was simple for the volunteers as well as the women to understand, so that we could create an actual impact and they would retain what we're trying to get across to them. Um, Now, in the end, what we went with was executing, motivating our members, our volunteers, and basically trying to ensure that if they had any doubts, they could get back to us and conduct the activity on an on ground level. Now, even though Udan was an ambitious project, it was very well appreciated by our members and local officers who conducted the activity, because they thought was very interesting and very different kind of creative methodology that we've taken up. So I think that's one tip that I would like to give and mention later as well. Moving on to the evaluation, since we went with SWOT analysis earlier, so we had a clear idea on how much target population to assess. Then we kept a realistic success indicator, since it wasn't an easy task. And since it was a personal one-to-one interaction, we went forward with Google Forms for pre and post event questionnaire, which the volunteers would fill for the specific women they were teaching. And this way we also managed to save paper, so that was great. um, Overall, some interesting things that I would like to share about our activity was even though we had thought of reaching 150 women, we managed to have an outreach of almost 1,200 women, which makes us very, very happy. Um, Out of that, we were able to empower almost 87% women with the power of writing their own name and signing themselves. So I feel that is some real time impact that we try to make. And even though this was a little different, we were able to assess it pretty well, because we had measurable objectives while making the project design. So moving on next to the tricks and tips, it's very, very important that we follow the SMART objectives, because that will help us analyze how we've done with the activity, and then again modify it if we need to ensure that what the goals we have in mind are actually reaching our beneficiaries. Next, I would like to say that it's very important to keep your volunteers motivated and enthusiastic, because they are the ones who are actually going to go on ground and conduct your activities and get your message across to the women or the target population. So for that, we try to have calls OLMs with them to clear their doubts and motivate them to, especially by sensitizing them about the issue. Overall, I would like to say that all activity coordinators, whatever topic you have in mind, however ambitious it might be, just stay motivated and go ahead with it. You never know how it could pan out and actually create impact in people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishika. So coming on to you, Fatima, could you please share all your tips and tricks for...
Okay, thank you, Sania. So as soon as there were some reported active cases regarding to COVID-19, and these cases were approved by Ministry of Health, we have discussed the possibility of conducting activities to participate in the global movement of fighting the pandemic. So we have discussed this. We made meetings, a series of meetings. Then we get the approval from our EB. Then we start to plan by writing our proposal about the activity. We studied the scope of the problem, the targeted areas which we can reach, and how to provide the preventive precautions for the volunteers. So after writing the proposal, we have open call for organizing committee from Khartoum University to participate in the activity, and many people applied. Then we have capacitated the organizing committee with the needed knowledge and skills about the pandemic through a series of online sessions and workshops. We have focused on causes, transmission, prevention, treatment, and how to prevent themselves firstly as volunteers by taking all the needed preventive precautions. So the interesting fact which helped us to implement this activity, that we have many members who are living in different states within Sudan. I just want to notify everyone who is watching us right now that Sudan is very large and vast country, and that was very helpful in targeting many states and many areas. So we were capable of working in 5 states, and we have worked as volunteers and organized these days by making home visits to talk in places which are frequently visited by the people, to educate them about the disease, especially the workers. I just also want to notify everyone that in Sudan, unfortunately, we have economic crisis, and there is overcrowding in bakeries and petrol stations, making them a very rich area for infection to be transmitted in. So we have collaborated also with the Ministry of Health Insurance in White Nile State, Global Aid Organization, who provided us with some of the needed preventive precautions to do our activity. Also, we have organized an online campaign about COVID-19 to talk about all the objectives which I have mentioned before. So regarding the evaluation, we distributed assessment forms among the participants from the organizing committee who attended sessions and workshops regarding COVID-19, and also assessment forms among members of community to measure their knowledge and attitude and practice about the disease. So we have focused mainly on quantitative methods by follow-up and calculating the data from the indicators, and we group the data. Then we are analyzing the data through SPSS to come with very accurate and appropriate results. Also, we use some qualitative methods in form of photographs, interviews, and participant observations who were mainly from the organizing committee. Regarding the outcomes, which we have noticed, that there were a big lack of knowledge and practices among community members. Unfortunately, they were stick to the traditions, their beliefs about the disease. Some of them thought that we had COVID-19 before in the country, and some African people won't be capable to acquire the disease. So we target these wrong beliefs, and we correct them. But the good thing, the positive thing, that many people, especially from the youth, were well educated about the disease, and they were willing also to take the initiative and volunteer with us as medical students. And that was reflected in many people who participated from the neighborhood committees, which are committees responsible for educating people who are living in the different neighborhoods and states within Sudan. So at the end, regarding some tips about organizing activities, I just want from everyone who is watching us right now to pay attention, to totally focus on and absorb the three main steps, big steps in organizing any activity, which are planning of the activity, implementation, and evaluation. You have to focus on these three steps to master them. This will ensure you to have a very successful activity with very strong impact. So regarding the planning part, you need to know how to write a proposal in a very good way. If this is your first time, always take advice from your seniors. When it comes to implementation of the activity after writing the methodology in your proposal, try to conduct the effective meetings with a specific task distributions and deadlines to organizing committee to do their tasks. Make the task specific as much as you can, and be very specific in saying and forming the ground rules which will control your activity. Also, I advise you to have open communication canal between the organizing committee and all the members who are working in the activity. This is extremely important. You are going to manage any kind of difficulties if you are capable of maintaining a very strong and open communication canal. Also be careful, especially when it comes to evaluation part. You have to choose methods which are applicable for you and reliable at the same time. And that's it. Thank you, Sania. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Fatima, and thank you so much all our panelists for this, Gloria, Ishika, Aya, Jorge, and Fatima for joining us for this discussion. With this, we go on to the next part, and a very super brief part that we talk here, that is future of IFMSA programs. So one of the most important things that programs has to do in upcoming times is continue with the work that has been established, that is work with standing committees, work with liaison officers, possibly to even venture a bit more into capacity building areas like we did for SMART in pre-GA at MM 2020. Also, it would be interesting to see of how programs could work with SDGs and more further translation of that with liaison officers. So these are a few things that program would be working in upcoming years. And also one of the things that we are currently doing is we are working with the PRC team to have to improve our databases and how we can do it better in future, so that activity database that can help all our partners understand the work that we are doing and also inspire all our members with the work and with the work that they're doing, and inspire other NMOs and get inspired and be inspired. Both aspects. I would just ask Lalu, Mahmoud, Omnia, and Saad if you would like to share a few more things about what does a future of programs and IFMSA look like in this aspect. Lalu?
Hi. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Like, I'm not sure. I just like to say that I think we're seeing like a lot of progress towards integrating both standing committee structure and program structure. And I think that's actually the way to go. And we should just collect the good practices on how this can happen and just keep it up, as well as this initiative on having this programs impact campaign. I think it's something that you brought in this term that we should also build up on. So everyone is actually having the same experiences the activity coordinators were sharing here today. So I think those are like some key points on how programs should keep working. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lalu. Mahmood, would you like to go next?
Yep. Adding to Lalo, I think now we are at a point where programs has been there for 5 years already. They have developed over the years, changed structures, and now they are being more and more integrated to the work of standing committees, giving that holistic approach to work. I think that next step would be to have use programs as a way of mainstreaming impact, use programs as a way of producing evidence-based outcomes as also of IFMSA, and also I would say internationally, maybe this is more about internationally, because for now programs are the umbrella, yes, but I see programs as being as taking initiatives internationally beyond standing committees as well, taking initiatives on their own regarding maybe research, regarding even activity planning, doing transnational, transregional, interregional activities, or at least plans that would bring animals together and bring more unified and more mainstreamed impact to our beloved IFMSA.
Thank you so much, Mahmood, Saad, and Omnia.
Yeah, I can share.
Yes.
So, yeah, in my own perspective, I think the programs really will really help IFMSA on an external level in a very the more that we get the opportunity to collaborate with the program coordinators, the more the liaison officers learn more about what IFMSA does and what the members do. And the only way that we can do that is through the IFMSA programs. So really it empowers and takes our advocacy to a different level with the externals. And it also helps us help the members, because we also get a lot of opportunities of interested externals who are really want to either they focus on a specific region or a specific country, and that would also help us link them with the members who do these activities in these particular areas, as well as empower the advocacy of IFMSA as a whole on a global level. So this is my take.
Thank you so much, Omnia. Saad, floor on to you.
Thank you, Sania. Thank you for sharing. From my perspective, I see the future of programs and its impacts on external level on 2 points. First, improving the quantity of enrolled and reported activities, and this is something we see progressing by year. So if we get that number of activities enrolled and we analyze that data, and we can open a lot of perspectives in the term of having research articles, submitting that to conferences, and we as liaison officers and IFMSA, we will be able to participate more meaningfully and actively in external events and in the external affairs. And the second thing is the quality of the reports that we have. If we take the annual reports done by program coordinators, if we have, for example, the website map or the list of activity database shown in the website, if we manage to showcase these activities and the impact that we have in a quality way, this will help us communicate better with externals, showcase what we are doing as a federation and what our members are doing on the local level, and it will open many doors for us for collaborations and for external opportunities.
Thank you so much, Saad. And with this, we go on to the next point. I'll just go through the next point, and then we can at the end take, there is 2 questions. One is I wanted to share with you that programs team has worked with evaluation manual that can help you all report your activities and go about and navigate the process of evaluating your activities and calculating the impact of same. I have attached the link of the same in the chats as well. So yeah, that's it for evaluation manual. In upcoming weeks, we have also prepared a programs toolkit that is currently in process of publication, and it's a step-by-step guide for all the activity coordinators to how to navigate through activity enrollment form and activity reporting form, and we hope that you enjoy it. So this is it. And then final reminder for everyone, please fill your activity report form for 2019 and for the 2019 and 20 term. Before 15th of June 2020, and 23:59 is the deadline. And if you submit your report forms before this, it would be included in the program's annual impact report. I would also like to share this is the amazing program coordinators team and programs team, which consists of 13 program coordinators and a program support assistant, and they are always there to help you. If you have any questions, whom to contact, and this is the list. Contact them anytime. As you have seen from our amazing panelists, that program coordinators are always there to help you, and they will help you with not just, hey, your activity is enrolled, or thank you for reporting, but they will be there on every step of planning your activity, going through the details. They will help you, like even like a smallest doubt, like, hey, what's smart objective? And you can schedule an online meeting with your program coordinators, and they will guide you with designing every step of developing a smart objective, or how you can evaluate, or even how you can talk to local authorities. Program coordinators can help you with that. And it's more like a dialogue. It's not just one step solution, because it's really, the situation is different from country to country. And a program coordinator is someone who has done a lot of activities in their own NMOs and starting from local level, and they know in detail the technicalities of programs, so they can help you at every process. So feel free to get in contact with any program coordinator, and they all can help you. Don't worry too much about technicalities of the programs, because those are just those are just small steps. One thing that you need to do is just pick up an email ID, or we have also added WhatsApp number of every program coordinator here. So just ping them, and they will help you with every detail, and don't be burdened with too much of information. And with this, I would like to say thank you all for joining us for this particular part. And so the two questions that we had was how to contact with local authorities. Maybe just I would suggest Lalu, because she did share this particular point. If you can shed a light on how you can tackle with difficult situations of contacting local authorities. But I could say what we do from program is, once you enroll your activity with IFMSA programs, you can use IFMSA logos, which can help you a lot in situations. We also give enrollment certificate that can, it's addressed to the name of the activity and the NMO, and that can help you dealing with local authorities. And also, if need be, we can see if there's possibility of support letter in cases of very tricky situation, but it can only be done once your activity has been successfully enrolled with IFMSA programs. So enroll your activity as soon as possible and report it before 15th of June 2020 for this term. So Lalu, floor on to you to share a few, if you could guide a few things related to local authorities.
Sure. So I think there are like two important points. So the first one is that you get that like affiliated under IFMSA, so you can use the name of a global and international organization. So this gives you like quite of a different status. But also when you enroll, you need to build up like this very structured activity plan. So whenever you're just, for example, sending an email to, I don't know, your city hall department on health or on education, if you're willing to start up a peer education project that I was talking about, or you're just reaching out to get a public space, for example, like a part of the road or something to have a benefic festival or something like that, and you attach your proposal, you will already have a very, very structured structure. And this is something that it looks very nice when you do that into someone that is receiving proposals the whole day. So I think those are like some of the strong points. And then whenever you meet them in person, it's also nice to bring a copy of your enrollment and just like this very clear plan that you will have to work on, and program coordinators can help you with that. So you can also like highlight that in a very clear way, so they can be like, okay, so this person knows what they are talking about, and this person comes from IFMSA, so let's get them on board. So those are like some of the tips that I actually used. So I don't know if anyone has others.
Thank you so much, Lalu, for this. We have one more question, is regarding activities and COVID-19. And program coordinator on communicable diseases is currently working on a lot of these activities that a lot of NMOs are doing in regards to COVID response. So do get in contact with Ahmad, who is a program coordinator on communicable diseases, and he can help you with all the details of it and how you can organize webinars in your NMOs. Also do get in contact with National Offices on Public Health in your NMO and supporting divisions for activities and projects, and they can help you. But in regards to programs, do contact Ahmad, who is our program coordinator on communicable diseases, and his email address is cd@ifmsa.org. So with this, we end our webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Especially Lalu, Mahmood, also Saad, Omnia, and speakers from NMOs, Aya, Gloria, Jorge, Ishika, and Fatima, and also our program coordinators, Matilda, Christos, Ola, Ahmad Alshir, who is Program Support Assistant, Ahmad Magdi, who is Program Coordinator on Communicable Diseases, and Christos, who is our Program Coordinator on RSRHR, that is related to SRHR issues. And final, a big hug and thanks to Shaima for coordinating the entire process of both webinars in this process. So lots of love for Shaima. And it's not an easy task to coordinate this entire process, and she was absolutely pro in this. And thank you all. I hope I haven't missed someone. Let me just go through the list. Thank you so much, everyone, and bye-bye. Stay safe, stay indoors as much as possible, and follow the rules of local authorities, and continue working with IFMSA, and just be safe. Bye.